right, I'd like to open the, today is May the 6th, 2013 Single Family Design Board. Let's see, I'd like to open public comment. If there's anyone here that wants to comment on a project that is not on our agenda today, you can do so. I don't see anyone coming forward for that, so I'll close public comment. And I'd like to call for a motion of approval for the Single Family Design Board minutes for April 22nd.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. And comments or corrections on the first item, which was, 108 Ontario Hills Lane. (2430) Calle Alamante. 527 La Marina Drive. And that's it on that agenda. No comments, no corrections? Then I'd like to have a motion for the consent calendar of April 29th.
We need to approve.
Oh, first we'll have a vote on, vote for April 22nd. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. And now, if I can have a motion for the consent calendar, April 29th. Okay, thank you.
Second.
And second by Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda for Monday, April 29th, 2013. Item A, 444 Conejo Road. It's granted project design and final approval with the NPO findings with conditions. Item B, 2224 Gibraltar Road. Was continued 1 week to consent with comments. Item C, 1101 East Coda Street. Was granted project design approval with the NPO findings and continued 1 week to consent with comments. Item D, 830 Flora Vista Drive. Was granted project design and final approval as noted. Items were reviewed by Mr. Jim Zimmerman and Jamie Pierce.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and I'd like to make a motion for approval of the consent calendar for May 6th today. Okay,
Second.
second by Jim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The consent agenda for today, Monday, May 6th, 2013. Item A, 938 Robley Lane. Was granted approval as submitted of the review after final. Item B, 1101 East Coda Street. Was granted final approval with conditions. Item C, 856 Farello Place. Was granted project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item D, 2224 Gibraltar Road. Was granted project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings with conditions. Item E, 427 Calle Las Corrales. Was was continued 1 week to consent with comments. Item F, 1708 Loma Street. Was continued indefinitely to consent with comments. Items were reviewed, let's see, Jim Zimmerman, Fred Sweeney, and Jamie Pierce. Fred Sweeney reviewing items C and F.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take our vote now. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. And now, any announcements? I think Brian Miller has something to tell us from his visit with the City Council.
Thank you, Denise. I went before the City Council. It was last Thursday, I believe, and kind of just expressed how I thought that the stipend, even though it wasn't that much, was at least a token of appreciation, and it also covered the expense.
I think it's down.
TV's not on
You're
here.
not, you don't have it hooked up to your shirt or something, do you? Oh. Huh.
Michelle?
Okay, am I on now? Sorry about that. Thank you. Anyway, yes, I was before the City Council on Thursday and spoke before the Santa Barbara City Council, and I expressed how I thought even though the stipend was not a significant amount, it was at least enough to cover the expense of traveling around to the different sites and visiting the different projects. I also kind of made it clear to the city how being on this board can be rather high profile, and that hopefully the city can appreciate the amount of work we do on this board. I cited several examples of several colleagues that have had to been fined or gone in the press for controversies because of being on this board. So I thought it was really important that the city council understands and appreciates all the work we do, and that even though the stipend I thought was rather, it's not that much, but and I think it's an appropriate amount, but I felt that it does kind of give a token of appreciation to us for the time and effort that we put before it. So hopefully we'll see what happens. But
When do they vote on this?
I don't know. Do you know when they vote for the budget?
Yes, I think it's early June.
Okay.
We will send you that date, so I know some other board members are also interested in attending to speak on the item.
And I just want to say, too, the city has been very supportive and cooperative in terms of also making sure that hopefully gets approved.
Wonderful. Good, well, thank you. Any announcements by staff?
I do have two announcements. So we had a little mix-up there on the recruitment, and this morning I did send out an email to explain that the recruitments for the two vacancies, which take effect at the end of June, will now be extended for 2 weeks. Now I'm hearing our existing members want to reapply, which is great.
Yay.
And make sure you get those in those 2 week period of time, and you attend the interview, because we've also had problems where council cannot or has a policy not to reappoint if you miss your interview. So we'll announce those interview dates just to make sure you're on top of it. And then secondly, there is a training set for Wednesday, I believe at 4. If you all can attend. If not, we'll have a additional training that I think will be via computer. So this is one way to attend and not have to deal with a computer type of training. And that's, I believe, down at the library at 4 on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's in the Faulkner Gallery, I think.
Okay. All right, then, we can continue on with our first item on the agenda. 2430 Calle Almonte. So third concept review, comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modification. It was last reviewed on April 22nd, 2013. We'll have our vice chair, Mr. Sweeney, read the minutes from the last meeting. And it's okay, there's 6.
All right, so at our last meeting on this project, motion was made to continue for 2 weeks to the full board with the following comments. Standard story poles shall be installed per single-family design board guidelines, which include horizontal ribbons that are truly reflective of the two-story ridge. 2, the board finds that the 20 closest lot study is not necessary for this application, and that the story poles will be sufficient. 3, provide a concept landscape plan and indicate where planting materials will be placed in order to provide privacy to adjacent neighbors. A motion was made by Sweeney, seconded by Miller. It was a 6-1 vote for approval.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, we just took a field trip out to the site to view the story poles. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves and have your presentation.
Okay, I'm Eric Svenimson, designer. I'm Dr. Nancy, the owner.
Okay. Oh, I don't think you're turned on, either one of you have. There we go. You just push that. There you go. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, presentation. I guess I missed the landscape issue. I thought we would put that off until after the modification, but I think the owner has some ideas about what we may do, but we don't really have much of a presentation as far as that goes.
I see.
There are no other changes to the plan at this point. I think the
Okay.
story poles told the story, hopefully. Do you want to speak to the
I think that there were a couple of questions that were raised last time. One was that there was no two-story building on that street. And now that you came and you saw, there's one at the corner of Calle Almonte, and at the end there are 3 two-story buildings right after each other. And there are 5 two-story buildings on Calle Galicia in the same block. And in Calle Linares, which is facing the hill, some structures they go down actually 3 stories, but some of them, 1 story is above the street, but they're 2 stories down or 1 story down. So those are almost all of them 2-story buildings. And insofar as so that was basically erroneous information, that we worked on last time. The second thing is in terms of the design. Is basically that design goes with the neighborhood. It's the ranch style, and so if you walked over there, it's basically exactly the same. Insofar as the size of it is, the side of it that actually faces the street and the hill is extremely modest, so there's nothing in there that's going to affect the view of the hill. And insofar as again, there was no privacy issue that was brought up by my neighbor anymore. The one who's building the building right behind me, because we have mutual privacy issues that have to be. I think it's going to be handled by planting some trees. But the neighbor, which is to my east, as you saw it from those windows, you cannot see anything above my roof or above the roof of the garage. So, and we are not building anything on the roof of the garage anyway. So it's from the side of the building, and we're not affecting that. We're not affecting even the roof, and they don't have a view even from over the roof right now. And we're not adding anything to the roof. If anything, we're cutting and going in. So those were a couple of issues that I wanted to add, just to clarify that the information that we worked on, was not accurate.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us? Okay. All right, at this time, then, I'm going to open up public comment. I have 2 slips. James Johnson, please. If you'll come forward and if you'll turn on his microphone, he'll be able to sit right there.
Provide a little handout here, if I may.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Hi,
Hi. You'll speak right into the mic, please. And if you'll introduce yourself, please.
my name is James Johnson. I've been helping the City Council and the citizens of the City of Santa Barbara for many years in the past, and as a result, I appreciate the work that you folks do. My wife Karen and I own the home directly across the street on Calle Almonte from this property, and from Fred and Venus's home. It's at 2435 Calle Almonte. We fully support the project as proposed. It fully meets not only the current NPO, but also the new NPO has been recently revised. Although we will lose a small portion of a private view as a result of this development to the north, we fully understand the NPO does not protect private views. It only protects public views. There are no public views in this area that would be affected by this proposed development. What I have done is provided some findings to help the staff when it comes time to approve the project. Ask that you consider a positive action today, based on positive comments, if that's where the process is. I've listed out all the findings from the NPO. I've added the findings relative to the Hillside Design District and slope lot findings. You might note on those that, as Fred had mentioned, there are a number of 2-story homes that are in the neighborhood. That was one of the original designs of the subdivision. There are 2 models that were 2-story homes, and then since then a number of people have added second stories to their homes. I believe my neighbor, Fred, has met the good neighbor guidelines. He has carefully and respectfully discussed the concerns of his neighbors and has addressed the privacy issue by proposing to landscape the rear yard with some trees that will grow 20 to 25 feet high, just on a conceptual basis. And as a result of that, the privacy will be protected for both the neighbors looking to the south and for my neighbor Fred looking north. In addition, regarding the visual distance, the addition of this on this home will be 70 feet from the home that's in the back. It'll be 70 feet from the home to the northwest, the first home that you saw. It'll be 25 feet from the structure to the east on Calle Monte, and 70 feet from the structure that's located to the northeast. In other words, there's substantial visual distance between this second-story addition and the others. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and our next speaker will be Steve Jordan. Please introduce yourself, please.
Steve Jordan, and 2431 Calle Galicia. So first, I just want to thank Fred for putting up the story poles. I appreciate that. It was enabled us to get a better look at what was actually going to be built. It was a little less impactful than what we had initially thought, which was good news. I'm still concerned about the windows facing out. There's a number of windows on that side. I think they're on the bathroom. Are they on the bathroom on that side?
No, that would be an office in
The office is
the
the
one
first one,
closet.
right?
Yeah.
And the others are.
the corner ones are going to be bathroom.
It is the bathroom. Okay. So the windows there, in regards maybe to privacy, but probably more importantly, lighting at night. If when those things turn on, at night it's quite dark up there. You turn it on right now. When he turns the lights on, I can't even tell other than he has a hall light little thing that comes on. But be concerned about that. I don't know. Maybe the landscaping can help with that or something. I don't know, but I would be interested in seeing about that. Also be concerned about, whatever height those are going to grow to. Sure. If they get up there, but maybe that's not an issue. I don't know. So, anyway, that's my comments. I'd be also interested in your opinions of what you saw today.
Thank you. Okay, so now we take it back to the board for questions from the board. Anyone?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Jim.
On your last review, did we ask you to raise the height of the windows? Did we discuss the windows at all?
We discussed the issue of the privacy there. It was not mentioned that we do that. Basically, we were supposed to, myself and my neighbor were supposed to resolve the issue of the privacy, and we decided at the time that what we could do was to put stationary shutters for 5 feet, and then above that, the functioning one. But now that we are proposing to put trees in there, if it goes up to 25 feet, hopefully that is going to resolve that issue.
This is the bathroom, right?
No, that's the
That's the study.
office.
And these-
Study.
this-
Right.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, Jamie?
What's the plate height of the second story?
8 feet.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bernie.
First of all, thank you very much for putting up the story poles. That really helps everybody get a sense of how it's going to be affecting, if any, neighbors. My concern is about the deck that's out in the front, and I was wondering if you had any other addresses or photos of any other properties that have a similar design in that neighborhood.
Yes, actually, in the report that was put together, we have mentioned that we used James actually did most of the work here, do the Google Earth. James, do you know which page it was? It was, it is on the first page, item 2. The proposed residential structure is compatible, then it says that the proposed second floor deck is compatible at 176 square feet, a modest square footage, as it is similar in size to other approved residential second floor decks in neighborhood. On Calle Almonte, 2417 is 133 square feet. On 2470 Calle Almonte, 120 square feet, 2465, 270 square feet, and Calle Galicia, 2425, 160 square feet. We couldn't find the one for Calle Galicia 2421 because you couldn't find it on your side. But there is another terrace on the neighbor just to the east of me.
But my question is, are any of these decks in the front like yours is? So it's a really different feeling.
The one which is 270 square feet is in front. Yeah, that's the house that we saw that as a kind of Hermosa Beach type.
Oh, the
design.
one that the men,
right.
okay. Yeah, well, that's not a good model because, anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, how about comments? Jumping up at once here.
I do have one
Yes,
question.
Lisa.
Has the light shed that the neighbor brought up been concerned?
The light-
As far as the shedding of light from the
The
second
solar.
story?
We actually have also referred to that in this report here that we do have corner lights which are facing down on the first floor, but nothing on the second floor. So everything is going to be inside. And if we are inside the room at night and the light is on, obviously we want to close the shutters so nobody can see us. So that's going to be a mutually respectable thing. So if the light is on at night, we want to put a shutter. We're going to put a shutter, Roman shutter there, and we have it downstairs too. We're going to have it upstairs too. So obviously that's going to be mutually beneficial because we don't want to light in the room and then open so everybody can see us inside. But there is no exterior light that you're suggesting you're going to put on the second story.
Good, good. That's important.
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Jim.
Yeah, the windows that surround the tub, and also, did you take pictures from the deck? Did you take pictures standing on the roof from the deck to see what you see? See what you can see next door in the front?
In the front, this would be.
That looks down on
that's the
the
sun.
driveway,
Here's the deck. Back
right here, over here. Did you take
Looking
pictures?
towards the neighbor or the
Yeah.
street?
To the neighbor towards the east.
Yes.
We didn't take any pictures from there, no.
And then you had mentioned a solution to the windows above the tub
Yeah, right.
by putting shutters on.
We decided that before the trees actually are going to grow, to do that for the purpose of maintaining the privacy of my neighbor, because he wanted 5 feet from the floor, to be covered. And so we said that we're going to put stationary shutter because if we make the windows smaller, even when the trees go up, then we cannot change it. But if we put something which is stationary right now, it's going to preserve the privacy right now. But then if the trees go up there and the question of privacy is going to move away, then we can put a functioning shutter there.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Fred.
Okay, the story polls for me really kind of confirm my uneasiness of this whole project. So, if this house were on a flat neighborhood, flat lot, and the houses did not terrace down the hill in the fashion that they do, I wouldn't have any problem with it. But given what I saw earlier this afternoon, and given the nature of how we're going to continue to deal with requests for these single-story homes in this neighborhood as they come forward, because I'm sure there's going to be more, that we'll set a precedence by approving the location of the second floor. I think the second floor needs to be tucked back to this portion. I was looking at the floor plan, and since the second floor addition that they're proposing tends to want to be sleeping quarters, and there is a study that the staircase coming up could easily probably come up with a design that could put the whole unit over here. I too am concerned about the front deck. It's rather awkward if you look in detail at the elevation of how it's being set in there. is that this little piece right here is getting chopped off. So it's not in my mind, there it is, not a really great design solution. I can understand why the applicant wants to do this addition on this side of the house, but I think that we set in motion a series of second floor applications that are going to be hard to justify as we move forward. Having said that, if I'm in the minority on this, that may be in fact the case. If this addition is to stay where it is, then I would really, given the nighttime effect of lighting, regardless of what the glazing is in this bathroom, I think that the amount of glazing around that bathtub needs to be reduced substantially. Given the privacy issues between the property immediately to the north that we walked in this afternoon, the one that's being built, in this house, there's going to be ongoing privacy issues between the two properties, and there's no guarantee that the current owners of both sites will remain as they are or who they are. And maybe other people move in at a later date, and they may have a different idea about how high trees should grow or hedges should grow, etc. And so we could be fostering a conflict further down the line. Certainly maybe not now, but further down the line. So even if my colleagues decide that the location is appropriate, I couldn't support it now because of the nature of the amount of glazing around that bathtub. Basically, those windows there. And I really have difficulty with the size of the deck and the design of the deck out in front of the balcony.
Okay. Thank you. And Brian, want to weigh in?
Yeah, I really appreciate the story poles. I'm really glad to go out there. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. And it, the roof deck is very awkward. And seeing what is going on in that neighborhood in terms of the second-story additions, I think it's a good design. However, I think I'm going to side with Fred in this respect that actually the second story should be on the other side, simply because of what's going on in that neighborhood, the way it's situated. I can see an effect occurring being in the neighbors' houses, how second story is being surrounded can really create quite an impact. And so these second stories have to be very carefully added to these houses, and it has to be very sensitive to the topography of the sliding of the hills. So I think I tend to agree that the second story needs to be over here on this side to minimize the impact, considering what's going on else in the neighborhood. So I guess that's my take on it.
Thank you. Who hasn't weighed in yet? Jamie?
I'm in agreement with both architects because I think that it does help set a precedence for the future of this neighborhood and many other neighborhoods. And we could see today when we were going through the houses the impact of situations that were not done that way. And I think that although this has already happened in some of the homes, I think that these houses will come before us in great numbers, and it's good that we have an idea of conceptually of how we want to handle this in the future.
Okay. Lisa?
Yes, it was illuminating to see the story poles, and if there were no other solution for the location of a second story, I might feel differently, but I will echo my colleagues and say that because it could be rearranged in a more subtle way, that I would support that idea. So, thank you.
Bernie?
I don't have any further comments.
Yeah, I think the balcony is in a very difficult place. One thing I'm concerned about is that the front elevation with the two-story is somewhat camouflaged by the garage in the front. And putting it on the other end, we're going to end up with a two-story coming straight up with nothing to balance it. So I have a difficult time requiring that the addition be put on the other side. I think looking at the story poles, there is very little of the view taken away. And I think it's going to be more difficult to put it on the other end of the house. One advantage is you do have room to put a balcony in the front on that end. You have about 10 feet to the property line, don't you?
To the setback line.
To the setback,
So,
yeah. So I think that's a plus.
All right. Thanks again for the story polls. I think that my feelings were, I think, the most impacted when I was on Mr. Jordan's property, and seeing that he's going to be completely surrounded by these two stories looking right at him. His privacy is ruined, in my opinion, and that's upsetting. And I'm not sure that moving the addition to the other side, I think that would be worse for him, actually. It would be right in front of him at that point. But it would then, again, open up his view corridor, because he doesn't have a real big view over the top of the house now. Having looked at the other surrounding properties, I didn't see any issues with the others as far as view corridor goes. I think Mr. Jordan is the most impacted neighbor of all of them. And the deck is problematic for me as well. I wish it wasn't there at all, quite frankly. But on the other hand, I look at the size of the addition, and I think it's fair. I don't think it's a large addition. I didn't see it being, really ostentatious or not fitting in with the current architecture. So we sit in a bit of a conundrum up here.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say these are all very good comments. And listening to Mr. Sweeney or Mr. Zimmerman, I think I probably could support the addition on this side if there is no deck in the front. I think that's very awkward. And that the windows, somehow, probably this little pop-out needs to be taken out to help mitigate that. And that the windows in the bathroom were reduced considerably, too. There's a lot of big windows. So I think if the windows, especially in the corner bathroom, were reduced and that the front deck, roof deck, was removed, I would probably support this side.
Well, I have to say I agree with you, Brian. That would be an approvable project for me as well. But I do think you could eliminate a couple of those windows around the bathtub. I mean, it's awfully nice to have that. But given that, there's just so many privacy issues there.
I have a question.
Yes, Jane.
Was there something I was missing? Nobody talked about the middle. Is it a financial thing?
The what?
Setting the second story in the center?
About sitting in the center?
Nobody talked about that.
No one's mentioned that yet.
Well, whenever I can be allowed to make a remark.
Not yet.
Come.
Well, what do you have in mind? I mean, that's...
Well, I guess because Jim was saying that he didn't think that was the answer going over to the other end. So I guess I'm just wondering about the middle. Trying to find a middle ground.
Yeah. Well, how about, can the architects weigh in on that? And how does that sound? Or is that something that anyone can picture? Especially if you don't have a design like that in front of us, so that's kind of hard.
I think one of the challenges of doing a middle
Right in this section.
Yeah, kind of, like right here is, I think we saw an applicant's proposal in this neighborhood that had a similar size existing roof pitch where the solution was in the middle.
Right?
And it was done with dormers and
Right.
some other pop-outs, and it didn't really raise the ridge line of the existing roof too dramatically. I think it was like,
Like 4 feet?
4 feet or 3 feet or something like that.
Are you talking about the one on the same street?
No, it's it's at the other street, but it's basically in the same area, but the opposite
The
street.
one that Jim,
Yes, yeah. It's up one more street. That could be a way as a compromise. But I think either one, either here or here, in my mind, I could see that working better in terms of the general outlay of how we approach these houses versus just on this side.
Jim, you have anything to say about that?
No.
No.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just would like to say, it's complicated to figure out what's best for allowing them to maintain their view, which is driving the placement of where the addition's going. So, we want to think about that also, but we also want to think about everything else we're talking about.
Sure.
So it seems to me that I could try creating a motion and we could see what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah, so I was just going to suggest that we continue the project and with the following comments and come back at the convenience of the applicant is either eliminate or move or restudy the deck because the board doesn't feel that it meets our guidelines how it is right now. And regarding the windows in the corner bathroom, restudy, redesign, work on eliminating the effect of the light on the neighbors, and show us the landscape plan when you come back that helps mitigate some of the concerns, and consider reducing the size of the addition as well when you come back if that's something that might help some of the board members. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Brian seconds. Any comments?
I have a question to the maker of the motion. When you say reduce the size, I know, Brian, you were pointing to, I think it was this little,
Pop out, yeah.
that little pop-out. You're saying
Take that out. That,
reduce that or move it back or whatever?
yeah, right.
Can we add that to the motion then, Brian?
Yeah.
So what, remove the what?
Well, I would say restudy the front elevation, and I would recommend that the deck be eliminated.
Yeah, I said that.
So, but Bernie, basically you were saying your motion says reduce it, and I was suggesting that a way to reduce it was to address what Brian said by reducing or taking this away. That would reduce it, would it not? I mean, from the way you've done your motion, you're urging them to reduce the size. So that's one
What
of
I
the areas
meant by
you're
the
moving.
size, I meant by the entire size.
Okay.
Now, I mean, what I don't know, maybe I wasn't being clear enough, but I meant to say eliminate the deck.
I'm in favor of it being eliminated. I think it's an awkward location for a deck.
Just if I may too, anything you want to put in there about resetting the position of the addition completely, like to the center or to the...
Well, I think, depending on what the other members want to do, if you support this motion, you're saying that it's okay where it is, and I'm just thinking that because of the view, that's where they most likely want it to be, unless I'm not understanding correctly.
Well,
So my motion says that
it's
without the
staying where it is.
deck there, and given what I saw from the story poles, and the height, and the size, and with the windows redesigned, that I would be comfortable saying that it meets our guidelines.
Okay. Okay, so we have a second to that.
Madam
Brian.
Chair, when we take the vote, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Are we voting? Is it on the vote?
If she's ready to vote, yeah.
Yes.
Unless
I'm not
anybody wants to
understanding why
add
we
on to the motion.
Yeah.
Can you,
If we're
read
ready
us-
to vote, I'm just, under Robert Rules of Order, anyone on the board can ask for a roll call.
Okay, so may I request that the motion be restated so I can understand what it was?
Okay, do you think you could read us back the motion?
Yeah, I'll
so
summarize
we
what I
can-
have, what I
Okay,
heard.
thanks.
Eliminate the second-story deck. Consider revising, reducing the size or location or number of the windows in the bathroom. Provide a landscape plan. Consider reducing the size of the second story. And I wrote down one suggestion was to consider eliminating the pop-out at the front elevation.
And this would be to come back to the full board to be continued.
Okay, so do you want, we do the vote first or the roll call first?
Well, the vote is the roll call.
Okay.
That's how it works.
All right.
So the staff calls the roll call.
Just one clarification. I wasn't sure if you guys all agreed on that being added to the motion. That seemed more of a question to eliminate the pop-out addition.
That's you two. You're the makers of the motion, and the second have to agree.
I agree.
Okay, that's the motion.
Okay. Board Member Miller?
Yes?
Board Member Sweeney?
No?
Board Member Chair Woolery?
Yes.
Board Member Zimmerman?
Yes.
Board Member Bernstein?
Yes?
Board Member James?
Yes.
And Board Member Pierce?
No.
Okay. So the motion carries.
Motion carries, okay. And then we will see you back.
Add one thing here. This plan was originally submitted as is, as one plan. And as a matter of fact, the foundation for the second story already has been poured. The city has approved it. They have
There were no approvals.
not the approval of the plan, but the foundations actually were in place. They came, checked it. So the huge wooden poles and also metal poles for the second story. Everything, all the foundation for the second story on the existing extension already has been poured. So the idea of moving this from this side of the property to the other side, basically.
Mr. Nasri, I think they support, their motion supported the addition in the location.
Right.
So there's no
I just
question.
wanted to clarify that.
So I understand that would be a concern, yeah, because you've already got
And
that.
just for clarification, he's referring to approved plans. That was the foundation as part of the addition to the one-story addition that was approved by the building department, which at that time was exempt from this board.
I see, okay. Okay, thank you. Well, all right then we'll see you indefinite continuance. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. We'll keep this one and you can take the other two, I think. And do you have the minutes that we can add to the packet here?
Yep.
Those on top? Here's the minutes. Okay, and now we move to 527 La Marina Drive. Okay, this is a second concept review. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. The project requires compliance with Tier 3 stormwater management program prior to granting final approval. This was last reviewed on April 22nd.
Madam Chair, go ahead. Yeah, there's one, I guess, okay. There was a motion for continuance to the full board with the following items. Study the style of architecture of the proposed second-story addition to be more compatible with the existing architecture. 2, study the size and reconfigure the location of the roof deck, revised to show compliance with the 15-foot single-family residential design setback guideline. 3, study a revised entry design. 4, study the front wall and the north elevation to consider breaking it up for architectural relief and to reduce the apparent mass. 5, provide photographs from the proposed second-story deck toward the adjacent neighbors. Action was taken on a 7-0 vote in favor, made by Miller and Woolery.
Okay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Paul Rubel, I'm the owner.
Okay. And your presentation.
Okay, so I'll just walk down that list, probably the best way to do it. So on the roof deck, I'll go to page 2 here. So on the roof deck, we basically reduced the size of the roof deck by 41%. We essentially pulled it all the way back to the roof line here. So I believe it's 23 feet. It's on the other drawing from the setback now is 23 feet. So it's in there. So that's so right now it's a 225 square feet. So we took that one. We also, from a privacy standpoint, obviously that helps. I did take those pictures. I took a series of pictures to give you a better idea. This is from the bedroom, of course, because these are obviously people are going to be situated in different positions. So I wanted to give a better understanding. So this is from the bedroom. So standing here. And then this is from what I'm calling the sitting room here, and then this is from the roof deck. So you're looking over that's the backyard concerns would be in this photo. I think this you're really looking over their roof.
So this is looking this direction?
South, this way, in that direction, yes.
So that's the next door neighbor yard. Where is that?
That's the next door neighbor's, grows on top of a trellis in the next door neighbor's house. So this is sort of looking out and one's looking down.
In this direction.
Correct. So there was concerns about the keeping with the architecture, 1956 architecture. So we looked at several different designs, went through quite a number of iterations. We changed the roof lines to be all hip roof. We changed got rid of the shed roof that was on the second story, and also changed the plate height on the bedroom, raised that up a foot to make a break in the roof, make it more appealing. The roof overhangs were moved to 3-foot overhangs, which is essentially what the current house is today. So that again, sort of matching what is we did do some changing to the entryway. Also, we looked at a couple different ways of looking at that. We actually added a very, I think, a low-level gable situation. We looked at hip. The hip just didn't seem to go. It would have been elevated quite high to match, and it just didn't go with the house. I think it would have gone back to it looked more of a modern look than an older house. So again, I remind the board that we're trying to accentuate the front of the house here. The lot is a little strange in that the driveway wraps around here, so people tend to go to the rear of the house instead of the front of the house. So we're trying to make it a little more predominant and obvious that you would walk down that way, just not with landscaping. Let's check my notes here. On the parts of the second edition, and what we did was we did put a break in this is the north-facing wall that was mentioned in the comments. The bedroom is moved to overhang that, and then there's a trellis also added there to break up that wall. Last time I showed you this, we had the siding on the bedroom area. We sort of inverted that, so to give it more a difference. Also, by moving the bedroom moves forward, but the sitting room did not. So that wall again is split, again, but more defining that area. And then on the south wall here, we did the same thing. We changed the siding, again, inverted it, and then we placed a trellis on the tall wall here to again break that section area up. And I did take some pictures of some examples of the siding that we were looking at, just to understand that part. So we did that. Then we talked about the entryway. We also added, you can see there's actually siding in the entryway also to break up that long wall that's on this side here to give it a little nicer look. The square footage changed slightly with this out. When we pushed the bedroom out, that added a small amount of square footage, and we also slightly changed the size of the entryway here, pushed that out slightly just to make it geometrically look correct. So it went up from 72 to 73% is all that occurred there. And that addresses all the comments from last time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to open up public comment. I don't see anyone coming forward, so close public comment. Any letters, anything? Okay. All right, then questions from the board.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a few questions. So the photographs we saw a second ago looking into the neighbor's yard were taken generally from standing on the roof where these windows would be, is that?
Yes, I
correct?
tried to stand where you would be if you were at that wall looking out.
Okay. And then I wanted to go back to the site plan. So the front porch, so this is a new walkway to here.
Correct.
And that's relatively level, as I recall, to get out.
It will downslope to this slightly, yes.
Slightly, but relatively.
This is downsloping, this is upsloping.
Okay. That's the trellis. So that bougainvillea, or not bougainvillea, but the wisteria that we were looking at is basically right here?
Yes.
Oh, this is the previous.
And so those photographs were taken there. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes, Brian.
I really appreciate your restudying the elevations and stuff. However, I think what really kind of concerns me is the asymmetricality, especially on the north elevation. I don't quite understand why these windows, I mean, when you're first approaching the house, and I don't know how else to say it, but a house is kind of like a face, and this looks very uncomfortable to me. I think if you look at the existing elevation, especially on the north elevation, how this balances. This is a nice balance. This is a nice balance. But then you see this, and it's not a balance. And so I really think there needs to be some study in terms of some symmetry in the windows, because it looks very odd to me.
Okay.
I think that's one thing that really stands out for me at the moment. So I guess that's my comment right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll just follow up on Brian. I kind of tend to understand his concern, but given the nature of the architecture language that's being introduced here, I don't have as much concern about the window locations or the sizes. If this was some other architectural type, if it was colonial or even Andalusian Spanish, so I'm not that concerned. The other thing that is curious is how do you really make it work? Where if you look at this window here, that's over the toilet. And in fact, I'm really curious about how you could get it that low without exposing the back end of the water tank on the toilet. So that might be a practical problem when you actually have to get that window in there. Because I'm assuming that's a casement window, so it's going to have a crank on it.
Yes.
Would put the crank behind the tank, because that just looks really low. I don't know, you haven't shown me, I guess that is the finished floor line, is it not?
Right.
Yeah. And then this one, I can understand why it's horizontal, because it's in the closet. And the hanging rods for the clothes in the closet are below that window, so I can appreciate why it's done the way it is and gets natural light in there. I guess if one were not to have a window there, then you really don't have a window in the closet at all, which, a lot of closets don't. You could, I guess, put a window here, which gets light from the stairwell, but, that's another issue. If you don't have a window there, then you just got one window in the bathroom. That might look a little strange. So I guess I don't have a big problem. I do appreciate your restudying the architecture. I think this looks much better than where we were on our last visit. Not necessarily super enthusiastic about the front entrance, but I think it's a certainly acceptable one. The geometry now works. I think that you can actually frame the thing. I was curious about just this little piece right here that appears to be the header over the door, back at the door, and that's, I assume, the same wood as the wood you're proposing other places.
Correct.
That just looks a little odd to me, but that may be just me. And I guess because it wraps around, see, it wraps around the corner there, but maybe that's okay. Short of that, I think I'm kind of okay. I'm still a little concerned about the size of the deck out here, but probably could go with it.
Okay. I just want to add,
Brian?
I would have to say, follow up that the style of these windows looks more like a deconstructionist style that was very popular in the mid-'80s, as opposed to something that was done in the mid-century. So that's...
Okay.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Zimmerman.
Why don't you just put a window like this in the closet, and then it's balanced. I do that all the time, and you can open it up when you want ventilation, and you can hang in front of it.
Yeah, the reason that window's like this is exactly what he just described. That it's very tall, right? It's literally at the ceiling, so it's not bringing a little light onto the clothes or anything of that nature.
I'm still uncomfortable with the entrance. It's so flat that it's going to be impossible to get it's not actually a truss. It's like a header going across, trying to hold the ridge up. Just not enough pitch there. If you could just pitch it a little more so that you would have a king post on top of the ridge beam that sits on the header. It looks squashed that way, so I'd like to see that, study that. But other than that, I appreciate moving the deck over, and I think everything else looks fine.
Okay. Bernie?
What are we on, questions or comments?
Comments.
Comments, yes.
I think it's moving in the right direction, and I appreciate the changes. I still think the deck's a little bit too big, just because of the precedent for the neighborhood and these what were once almost single-story cottage-style homes, and now they're becoming two-story with exterior living spaces and decks. I just think we have to try to curtail how big they are allowed to go.
Okay. Lisa?
Madam Chair, yes, I appreciate how you've broken up the the wall on the south elevation and generally what you've done with the architecture. And those are my comments at this time. Thank you.
I think it's also come a long way. I'm also uncomfortable with the entry. I guess I'm just wondering, structurally, could it come down? The height just feels like it's really high. It's like it would look very nice.
You have a conflict with the... I think you're going to have, if I'm reading Jim's correct, you're going to have the geometry of how all of the structural supports hit the house are going to be in conflict. So I think he's either got to be way high or it's not going to be possible to drop it and do what he wants to do.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. I think it's come a long way from the first iteration. I like the changes you made. I like that you shrunk the deck. I, too, think the deck is a little big still and could be smaller. Other than that, I don't have a problem with this. I think it's pretty close to being there. Does anyone feel,
Well, Madam Chair, I agree. I think the deck should be pulled back perhaps to the ridge if there's going to be a
yeah,
deck.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that would be a little more successful. And I do also feel that I think the windows should be symmetrical. I think that's the original house, they were in symmetry, and the new house they're not. I think it would really make a big difference.
Well, you know, Brian, here, I'm looking here at this little window here. There are also on the west elevation, there's two of those high, narrow windows.
Yeah, that's,
I might be more comfortable if the bathroom window was matching this instead of this, you know, and was higher and was looking like these three, this little set of three. That would give us a little more flow and symmetry and then eliminate Mr. Sweeney's fears, you know, about it being way too low.
Right.
And in essence, I think a bathroom window is rather appropriate to have them up higher anyway. But that's the only comments that I have about that, really. That I think it could work if it was just repeated. You know, you kept.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, a question to staff. If we could ask the applicant to come back and address a couple of the issues that I'm hearing at the table, but at that point, he can get final approval. How does that work?
The next step would be for project design approval. And then at that point, you can make some conditions to return to the full board or to consent for final approval.
So we could give it design approval with conditions to come back and show us some restudy of a couple of areas.
Yes.
But in general, we could say that the general design is appropriate. And then would he, at that point, bring Storm 3
Yes.
information back?
Yes, thank you, Board Member Sweeney. The Tier 3 SWIMP should be addressed prior to submitting for final approval, and final approval being granted.
Okay, so in essence, we could make a motion that gives him design approval with some further study, areas of study.
Yes.
And then he can come back with a Storm 3 requirement, and at that point, we could give him final with either to consent or full board, depending on what the details look like, correct?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
However, we want to be careful about doing that, Fred, because once we give it approval, we don't have any clout anymore, really. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just to clarify, I mean, if you grant a project design approval and specify conditions for them to modify, then that's what those changes will direct, and they will have to make those changes.
So we could construct a motion that would address the size of the balcony as a condition to come back, correct?
But
Is that what you're concerned about?
Yeah, that's one of the things. I'd rather, we could try it as long as we still they can come back and we can, but, once you give an approval, then it just seems a little bit too early to do that to me.
Okay.
Because if we continue it and then they can come back in 2 weeks even with the new changes.
I think if there's minor tweaks to it, that would be
So
very successful.
do you want to make a motion? You want me to? You want to construct a motion? Basically, you can just rattle off the issues. It's just comments.
Oh, it's just comments?
Yeah, if it's just comments, you can just.
All right, I'll make a motion to turn on my microphone.
have a hard time.
We'd like the client to come back to full board. We appreciate the design changes that you've made. They're very positive. With the following comments, that the roof deck, study the roof deck reduction, perhaps going back to the ridge line that is shown, that's over the living room, I believe, or the bedrooms. Also studying perhaps the windows, particularly in the north elevation, perhaps a little more balanced in nature. The window you have on the west elevation, I think, is perhaps a good window to maybe use in the front elevation on the north elevation. That's my motion. If someone would like to second and make a comment.
Okay, well, I was just going to put in Jim's comment about restudy the pitch of the entry roof element.
Okay.
So that it may appear
And
steeper.
are you seconding?
And I'm
Yes.
I will second it, and that's my suggested amendment.
I accept that amendment.
Okay.
So just for clarification on the motion, so it's basically a continuance, and then when the applicant returns with, I guess, you're matching the color, or are you, maybe you could show us the color of the whole thing, and are you changing the garage door, or is that staying the same?
No, we're changing that. I just thought the color comes with the next.
So
Yeah,
maybe
next iteration.
in the next iteration, okay. That was all I needed.
So to help yourself in the next, I think what Ernie is suggesting is when you come back, if you can address the three things that we just outlined that are in the motion,
Okay.
and come back with your color board and your Storm 3, you probably could get a major approval at that point.
Okay.
You won't have to come back
Okay, thank
an
you.
additional visit.
Okay. So all in favor of that motion? Aye. Opposed? Good, motion passes, and we shall see you back then. Was it indefinite, or when you're back, 2 weeks?
You want 2 weeks?
Yeah,
2
motion
weeks.
would be 2
We'll
weeks.
see you in 2 weeks.
Can I ask one
Yes,
question?
sure.
One thing I did want to iterate is I did take this as, we keep referring to the garage as the front of the house, but it truly is not. If you look at the pictures, that is the view of the garage. It
Okay.
is actually the side yard. It is not the, that was one of the reasons to put the addition over the garage, is it's literally tucked back in the property. So it's just.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely.
Because
More
I-
information is better.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
yes,
why
yes.
everybody walks to that side of the house, because you look at.
Got it. Thank you very much.
And then lastly, just the,
What's that? This is what we're keeping right here.
Set you up.
Yeah, what's on camera usually. Okay, sir, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Here goes.
Someone did.
and I guess the comment on the front was to make it higher or a larger pitch, I guess.
I think a higher pitch would be better.
Okay. Because I'm trying to, the reason I asked that question is, excuse me, like I said, I'm not an architect, but last time we had a quite high area and it was very pronounced, and you sort of commented that was, didn't
high
fit
now?
in, it didn't fit into
No, we're
anything,
not-
so
no.
okay.
Down a little bit.
I'm
It's
just
not-
trying to.
It's too low, maybe a little
Okay.
higher.
I just want to make sure I
In between.
understand, right? It's okay.
That's confusing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay, our next applicant is 1047 Arbolado Road.
Nobody here.
And this is
We're right on time, 4:05.
final review for this project. So that's 1047 Arbolado Road is next? No, that's not you. Wow.
Notia.
Okay. Okay, we'll recess for 5 minutes until the applicant can arrive. Give him a little more time.
This is Douglas Reed. I represent the Hodson Trust, and it's a single-family addition.
Final review. Final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management program. Oops, 1 second. Yes, I'd like to bring the meeting back, Single Family Design Board meeting back to order. And we are now looking at 1047 Arbolado Road. This is final review. Final approval is requested. The project requires compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management prior to granting final approval. It was last reviewed December 17th, 2012. Okay. Would you like to go ahead with your presentation and give us some...
Should we read?
Oh, yes, we'll read the...
You want me to read those?
Yes, please.
Okay. So at our last meeting that this was reviewed, the following motion was made. Project design approval with the finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and continued indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. 1, the board has positive comments regarding the project's consistency and appearance quality of architecture, materials, and good neighbor guidelines. The proposed size, bulk, and scale is compatible with the neighborhood. 2, provide a landscape plan and address the board's concern of the view from the street and softening the tall elevation. Include privacy screening, planting details for the adjacent neighbor, and planting details to soften the retaining wall. 3, address the board's concern regarding the proposed wrought iron staircase landing and exposure to the street. Provide additional sketches and study a larger base and provide landscape paintings to soften the appearance. 4, provide color materials board, study softening the proposed exterior colors. Motion was made by Pierce, seconded by Zimmerman. 4 in favor, 2 against. Sweeney and James were opposed. Woolery was absent.
Okay, your presentation, please.
Shall I reintroduce the project?
I think it's a good idea. It's
Okay.
been such a long time.
It's an existing approximately 1,800 square foot residence, and we're adding about 600 square feet. It's a 2-story residence, and we're extruding the roof structure to the east and adding 2 new levels. So in the dominant south elevation on the downslope, you see the dashed line that represents the existing profile, and this portion is the addition. And there's an existing balcony that's an L shape that wraps around the building. We're cutting it back so that it's just linear and providing a spiral stair down to the garden. Some of the issues that we addressed, one was I think there was some dissatisfaction with the existing posts, and so what I've done is previously we had the exposed concrete pier footings, and I've clad those in an irregular sandstone so that they blend in with the existing sandstone. And for the stair base, I have elaborated it more, adding another step and making it much more sculptural and sort of in the round and a little more prominent, although it mostly will not be seen from the street. But the reconfiguration affects the landscaping, I think, to a positive extent. And that landscaping concept is, well, I've dubbed the garden La Cascada for cascade, because there's a cascade of existing stone walls, and so we're kicking up landscape features over each of those walls as it tumbles down the hillside. If you look at the site, there's a predominance of dark greenery in here, and so, but there's a lot of, at the risk of sounding feng shui-ish, there's an energy that comes around here, and some of it's water, and so that there's a bit of a vista through here, and so here the landscaping of various colors, contrasting colors, cascade down those stepping walls, in contrast to the darker green existing trees. And let's go to that landscape plan. It's a larger scale, quarter-inch scale. So we have a series of plantings that cascade over the walls here, and also features to provide for more absorption of runoff water. Currently, there's no issues whatsoever on the site for erosion or runoff problems. So I think this landscaping will go quite a ways in maintaining that or improving upon it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience coming forward, so I'll close public comment. And questions from the board? Yes, Lisa James.
I'm looking at your landscape plan here. Wondering if you could explain a little about sandstone boulders at roof downspout runnel outlets.
Well, those are just, they're operating as splash blocks, but in a more naturalistic manner so that they're landscape features.
So the water just...
Well, there's not going to be a lot of water, but this is in the event that to prevent any potential erosion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have two questions. One is, are there any exemptions for the square footage for the basement for the FAR? And two is, the base of the staircase, what is the material of that? And what is the material of the staircase?
Staircase is steel, the appearance of wrought iron. And the stair base is entirely clad with sandstone.
And did you know about the answer to the other one about the basement?
It has a credit for half basement.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
So I just want the board to be aware of that regulation that we have. So the FAR, while it seems small, half of it doesn't count in the calculation.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll move to comments. Yes, Jamie?
Do we have any photographs to kind of just, I know it's been a while, like of existing conditions?
Yeah, that would be helpful too.
I don't have them on me,
Michelle
but they were
probably has them.
submitted with the original preliminary.
He usually has them in the file.
Any other questions meanwhile, while we wait to see about some photographs of existing conditions? No comments? Yes.
I think at your last meeting, we were talking about getting more landscaping around the stairs and then widening it. So these are steps coming down from the stairs?
That's correct. Yeah, the stair landing is much more elaborate than it was previously. I'll show you how it looked before. The concept previously was that the landing itself would not be really expressed and not really so visible. My major concern is that the person walking down the stair has a sense of stability and is immediately in the garden and on terra firma after climbing down 12 feet of stair. This compromises that a little bit. I don't want to put a handrail because it's unsightly. There's just 3 steps enveloped by landscaping. And my position is if, in fact, that you do see this base, if you were to, I think it's a positive element that reinforces the architecture. And I thought that was the intent of the board's comments. Here's the previous site plan. In fact, we could go to a bird's eye isometric view that might clarify it more. That's the original solution there.
Yeah, I think this is much more elegant, personally.
And if we could go to and there's the revised solution.
That's nice way to look at it.
It waits.
I have a question. Do you have any tall, let's see, let me get to the street level here. Where is the street level down here?
There's
Robles down here.
Roble.
Okay. And so I'm looking for any tall plant life. This tree right here is existing?
No, that's new.
Oh, that's new. What is that?
It's a Mexican, let's see,
E, I guess.
yeah, what was that?
Oh, Parkinsonia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mexican Palo Verde.
Not a huge tree. So I guess I think we had a comment, did we not, about screening this as much as we could?
Let's see. Yeah, provide a landscape plan and address the board's concern of the view from the street and softening the tall elevation.
Okay, yeah. So,
Include privacy screening, planting details.
okay, so that's not really going to address that, this tree?
Well, in reality, as you come down Roble Lane, you see it's curving here. You're so far below it when you're right up to it, you don't even perceive that. So the view, the issue is more from this direction, and this provides a lot of screening on the entire addition. Now, I don't know if it was the board's intent to completely obscure the building and also their view. I think framing the building is very appropriate. Now, if you compare this to what we previously had, which is just existing as some scraggly existing landscaping with a lot of dirt, it presented a predominance of just bare walls. And so this completely changes the perception of it, because you'll get this all these cascades kicking up and catching light in different colors to frame the building. Because I don't think the building is going to be an eyesore by any means.
No, it doesn't look like
it's
it
going to
will.
be the backdrop, the canvas, if you will, for the landscape.
Well, what I'm thinking is that if you just added another one of these, here, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So one is right here, yeah.
So when we're looking at this picture, but this does not have the addition on it yet, right? So
No, that's the existing condition.
That's existing. So this Palo Verde will be way here, right where that banana is, basically, correct? Or
That's
something
correct.
further?
Yes, it is where the banana
Okay.
is.
Yeah, I think you could use another one there to help screen that staircase from view. If you did a couple, I think it would be, it would read a little better, I think.
And I think the 24-inch box is worth asking for.
Yes. What is that? What?
Well, he's got the 15-gallon or 24-inch box.
I think the 24.
I put that in there for you.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think a 24-inch box is appropriate as well. We're just reviewing here so we can
Yes.
refresh our memories. So much has happened since we last saw you.
Well, since the Palo Verdes are lacy and somewhat translucent, I don't have an issue with planting another.
Yeah, it would be nice, actually, because of that fact exactly, that they are rather lacy. They're not tall trees either. So this top of the staircase will still be seen.
I would hope that it's somewhat visible, because I don't think it's a negative element on the building at all.
No.
I think it's a focal point, actually. We've gone out of our way to make it an aspect of the ornament of the building.
Are we questions or comments?
I think we're on to comments at this point, but you can go right ahead and ask away.
Aside from your landscape plans, I think what you've done is great. I like the flow. I like the romance of it. I think it kind of gives it a little charm to the house. That's kind of an interesting, like you said, I kind of agree with you. I think hiding it is not necessarily a thing you'd really want to do for this house. I think it kind of makes it fun, kind of an interesting house. So I could support this.
Are you talking about the staircase or what?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Are you using S-tile on this?
Yeah, it's existing, and so we're just going to extend it. Yeah.
I see. Okay, well, who can remember? I was not here, so.
No, the discussion we had before was typically S-tile would not be approved if it was a re-roof or a new house, but where there's existing S-tile, it doesn't seem fair
Right.
to make them re-roof it to do it.
Understood. Okay, that was just, since I was not present at the first meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Do,
Bernie.
Michelle, do we have anything in our guidelines about exterior staircases? 'Cause I can't remember much. Okay.
Well, I know Bernie, we usually do not like them much.
Uh-huh.
I think in this particular case, so where he's actually removed a whole portion of that balcony going down the side and terminated in the spiral staircase, it is a rather nice feature.
The romantic concept, if you will, for the
Yes, the
stairs.
romantic
It's like a tendril from the garden coming up.
There we go.
And that's one reason I didn't want a real prominent base on it. So
And there'll
that it's
be
subtle.
trees and plantings up in the front here, so it's not going to be this stark as this picture is.
Now, one of the things I should say for the purposes of art, if you will, I don't know that just putting in another tree is the thing, because one of the things that the stair does, and quite by design, is it offers a vertical counterpoint to the otherwise very horizontal structure, which could become apartment-like. And creating an open vista that emphasizes that verticality, I think, has some value. And when you start planting trees across, you start cutting across the building, and it starts looking like a horizontal. So that's why I'm thinking of this as a vista through here. And maybe if there wasn't another tree, maybe it's over here, so that we do get a view of that stair that has that counterpointed expression. It's a positive aspect to the building. It mitigates its horizontality.
Okay, thanks for that. But
I think
now,
you were kind of saying that, weren't you, to move that other tree over a little bit?
well, you could keep this one and move it over, or add another one.
No, by having two, you'd have one by where you were saying the banana tree was, and then balancing on the other side. So you would still see through, and you would still see that.
My point is that it should be mindfully framed, and it's not necessarily so obvious from this photo, because some of these photos that I showed you were actually taken from a neighbor's yard and not where the public will see it from the street, so it's misleading.
Well, okay, so let's. Any other comments
Just
here?
one
on this
more
project?
question.
Yes.
Is how far is the new addition from the neighbor, and how far is the staircase from the next door neighbor?
The setback is, I think it's 12'1". Yeah, it's 12'1" to the corner of the building. And the stair itself takes up another foot maybe, so it's about 11'1", where we have a 10-foot setback. And it's completely screened from the neighbor.
That was some very thick, heavy foliage along here, is there?
Well, we're there's an existing hedge. The neighbor has a hedge that comes out to about this point here, right to there. And we're reinforcing a cavity in their Pittosporum hedge, so that it'll completely block views each way between the homes.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I recall that I opposed this project the last time, and I'm going to continue to oppose it. I'm sitting here looking at...
Why?
Yes, you may know why. I'm sitting here looking at a photograph of David Gebhardt and trying to think about how he would address this. But I think he might say that it's not, sometimes not appropriate to endorse a poor piece of architecture that already exists, and I think that's what this project does. I think I'm opposed to the spindly staircase. I think it's inappropriate. I think that the second floor deck is inappropriate, the way it's currently designed. The detailing of the column posts, the posts themselves, the capitals are not appropriate. I think that it just enhances the nail-on effect of an inadequate 1960s piece of wannabe Spanish architecture. So I will not support the project.
And I'd like to voice my agreement with that.
Okay. Well, So let's see, what direction are we going to go here then? We need someone to make a motion, and now, this house is here, whether we like what happened there or not. It's an existing home that he is adding a pretty minor addition to, all in all. That's how I see this.
I agree with you.
So, because it was built the way it was originally, we are not to allow any modification to it? I don't know about that. But, you know, I don't see that that's a compelling reason
That isn't
to
what I
decline
said, Madam Chair.
the project.
I'm talking about the architecture. I'm not talking about not allowing an addition.
Okay, well, the architecture is what it is, and,
I just think there could be a better approach.
okay.
Okay?
Now, do you have any suggestions for him, or do you just want to take a
No,
stand against?
my sense is that the majority of the board has shown in the last vote that the majority of the board is going to be in favor, and I'm going to be one of the guys that's not in favor.
Okay. Okay, who wants to make a motion here? And he's looking for final approval.
Make a motion.
Okay. Yes.
Madam Chair and board members, I just wanted to clarify, this it is here for final, so I stepped out for a moment, just want to make sure you guys discussed the Tier 2 stormwater management program.
Yes, okay. How did you address that?
Well, currently, there isn't any
We don't-
issue at all with,
This is the one that's...
with runoff.
So we need to look at this.
Yeah, this is new as well.
Okay,
There
but
isn't
we-
currently any
We can't
issues
look
with
at the
runoff.
plans that you brought, so we need to see the ones that
I
were
think these,
submitted.
well, I think they're mixed up now. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
this is the one that we're
Yeah.
looking at, so we'll just continue to look at this. So let's see, maybe on the other back page or so, or,
If we want to look at the, well, this is fine here. We have an existing runnel here. And the owner stated that it stays dry year-round, and they don't have any erosion issues whatsoever. Now, we're constricting that area somewhat. So what we're going to do is maintain the runnel or enlarge it as necessary. But the main thing is that to provide it, to reinstall it so that it disperses intermittently along its length. And then when it does outlet through this wall right here, there's a lot of absorptive material to disperse the runoff.
so is this like rubble or rock?
It's actually not. No, that's a grass.
Oh,
It's a
okay,
thick grass,
okay. And that's...
not turf,
basically-
but it's like a blue grass,
Okay.
low water use
Okay,
material.
And that's how you're disseminating the water? that
Yes,
way.
and with the addition of the plants as well.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Before we vote, I'd just like to make a comment because I do have an issue with the exterior staircase. It's not really addressed in our guidelines anywhere, so I think that, at least for me, making compatibility findings, whether this house becomes an entrance to the garden from the owners who are there now, or if it changes hands and then it becomes an entrance for two separate buildings, you know, that's what I think, because I know that's what happens, and that's why I don't think that the outside staircase is compatible, because I don't think there are any other of those in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment.
Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah. If I were to approve the project on the basis of this picture, I wouldn't approve it. I think looking at this from the street and seeing the stone walls, the shadows, and with the additional landscaping, you see a complete different picture. Even with the steel staircase coming up, you're going to see very little of it. So,
Yeah,
But that's
I agree
true.
that these are deceiving, because they're not really showing the foliage, the plant life
Absolutely,
and
this
everything.
shows it's stark, and it would be
wouldn't
much
be that
softer.
stark.
than
I mean,
this.
it's already not.
These are the concept approval, and this is the final here.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that, I understand that, and I realize that's the case, but just from the design standpoint alone, without all the fancy, beautiful landscaping, if another neighbor wants to get an exterior staircase and we just approve this, then we
We
just...
already approved it, though, that's the thing. We
Oh, we've
already
already
approved this
approved
at a
it?
previous meeting, yes.
Oh, okay, well then, so much for that.
Oh, dear.
Madam Chair and board members, I just want to follow up on Board Member Bernstein's question regarding the guidelines and exterior staircases. Yes, she's correct. There's not really a whole lot of mention in that fact. It does say that they are discouraged, but they are not prohibited. So generally, it's just based on the board's discretion in regarding to the overall picture of the architecture and the site, etc.
Okay, well, how do you feel about the staircase? Let's, we've already done it, so, yeah, it's already been approved, never mind.
Yes, again.
Okay, okay, then let's see what we can do here to help this gentleman along his way, and we need a motion on the table.
All right, I would like to make a motion to grant final approval for this drawing in light of the fact that this is a Spanish colonial built at a time when it was not really authentically accurate, but I have no problem with it. That's not part of the motion. Should I read the consistent all this, or? I make a motion to approve the project. I believe it's qualified, except for to include the comments of the landscape and the Tier 3 management.
Tier 2,
That's
he's handled that, so,
Okay.
so that's completed.
So we were going to add another Palo Verde and have them both be 24-inch box?
Yes,
Two
total.
additional.
one additional.
Can you specify a location?
Location?
Should it be harmful as limited, or are you gonna-
I think I should, may I speak? I think I should study that on site, because it might very well be that it frames this opening here rather than necessarily clumped over here.
Well, it could be lower as well, it could be down here. You know, see, the reason that we're wanting to put that there is indeed to screen the staircase. Now, I know you don't like that, but that's what we want you to do. We want to have those two trees there, another one here, so that it's not so obvious from the street, so that people aren't going to necessarily see that so stark up against the house. So my suggestion is that it either goes here, so that you've got kind of a double layering of it,
Yeah,
or
you're
to go
adding
here.
depth.
Yeah, so it would be nice here as a depth, I think, but then it might be too low, maybe it needs to be up here. That's something that's hard to say without being in the field.
Yeah, once you let me study that, but I understand your
You
point.
understand what we want here?
Absolutely, yes.
Is that good with you two as well at the end? Okay. Okay, so make that part of the motion that we're adding a second Palo Verde, and do we have a second for this motion?
A second.
Jim seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
2 opposed. Okay.
Thank you.
Doug, you can keep this set and that set. I'll keep this middle set.
Okay.
And I'll keep all this.
Should I fold it or rule it here?
You want the new photo as well?
And here's all the rest of the photos.
This stage 2.
Michelle, I have this other set there.
Yeah, you have this set and that's.
Okay, our next project is 1164 Crestline Drive. This is a new item. It's going to be a concept review. And I will read the following. This is a proposal to construct a new 688 square foot second story addition to an existing 2,148 square foot two-story single-family residence with an attached two-car garage located on a 15,200 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposal includes a new 83 square foot second level deck, a new in-ground pool, and replacing the existing ground level patio with a new on-grade patio. The proposed total of 2,000 831 square feet is 65% of the guideline floor-to-lot area ratio, FAR. The proposal includes staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. This is comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Don Swan. I'm agent for Mr. Dolis.
Okay. And your presentation.
And we have excuse me, we're adding on, we're doing a major remodel to the main floor, and then we're adding on a second floor addition. There is an existing second floor that exists above the garage, and we're adding a master suite on top of the main portion of the house, adding and a deck that comes out the back portion. The deck, of course, is well beyond whatever our requirements are as far as two property lines to the neighbors. So it's the main portion of it. As you can see by the pictures, this is the front of the house. You can see here, which you can't see very well. I have a couple more that show a little bit better of the house itself.
Which house is it here? Is it this one?
That's it, yeah. It's just another view showing the neighbor's house, and our house is there.
Oh, I just switched.
This is what basically you see. The owner wants the trees to stay, so we're leaving the jacarandas in front, but removing all the eave foliage. The vista from across the city.
Is that the end of the second story?
Yes, that's right, yeah. And there's one picture that shows there's similar in the neighborhood. It almost looks like some of the houses were added onto with this above the garage area. But there's one picture somewhere that shows it. There's many houses in the neighborhood that have 2 stories exactly the same way. They're just above the garage is the second story. A little odd for the whole development to be that way. That's
so hard to tell.
This is what houses in the same neighborhood have the same second story that's on the house. It's not an addition. It looks like it's part of the original house.
So this is the precedent for it, basically.
Yeah, right. So that.
And you said it's already has this.
Yes.
Yes.
That
so
already
it's
exists.
already exists.
Right. Now the situation is that we have we're well within the setbacks because it's E1, and when the track was built, I don't know whether the zoning requirements were different, but we're well within, the whole tract is that way, well within the setbacks of neighboring properties as well. So I know we need modification for the upper floor. This is what our mod for the second floor is going to be, that amount of area. But we want to reface the existing house too, to bring it up to a little bit to today's standards, rather than.
Why don't you show us the rest of the plans? Let's see what's happening.
Well, and the pool area is another situation where the pool area is going in the front here. It's also, this is basically what you can see. I wasn't texting. It was just I took another windshield.
Well, what are we looking at here?
There's the house.
Oh, I see. So it's up on the ridge. Oh, that little arrow. I see. I thought it was a bird.
Sorry.
A long-necked bird.
Yeah, there's the yellow house is right next
so
door.
So it's right on the, that's why they call it crest line.
That's right. So they're on the red. This is showing the oaks are in the backyard. Their top of the canopy is level with the balcony, or level with the patio.
Level with the patio.
The back, yeah.
I see. So it's quite a slope.
It's a good 1.5 to 1.
And this is their backyard, basically. They just take a staircase down to the.
That's the existing. It was existing there. Just wanted to show how those trees are down the slope when they go down for a couple hundred feet.
All right.
And we showed the plans to the neighbors, and they all like it, so.
Okay. It's good to speak to your neighbors, we like that.
Yep. No negative comments at all. This is where we're just removing the whole interior of the house and making it so that we gain the vistas across the city from inside the house.
What's existing here and what's changing?
This is the kitchen
I see.
in this area. This dotted line is where the kitchen area is. This is living room. This was kind of a dining area, nook dining area. And so we're just taking it all down. We're lowering the floor. There's a raised floor in this upper portion here. There's a slab floor down 8 inches down. So we're taking it down to the 8 inches to the lower floor to give us a little more volume in this large room. Give it more space. The garage is going to stay. We want to modify the garage a little bit because we're talking to Steve Foley at the transportation, and because it was a little awkward to get the cars in here, we moved the door over to get more space. There was a stairway up here. We eliminated that so we get some space to drive the car into.
Yes.
So we're a little bit shy on dimension here, but it's existing, and he said he'd go along with that because we have lots of width in it. The front elevation, there's a window in the kitchen there here, and there's a window in the nook area that we're modifying to make it a little more to the front. Eliminating all the windows on the side here that face the neighbor. And the other side doesn't affect the neighbor at all either. The second story, this is existing, that bedroom wing that exists now. So we're bringing our stairway up in another direction and landing and continue up to that area and then continue up to the master this way. That's the bath. We have two windows in the dressing room to give it a little light and ventilation in there, and eliminating any windows on the front. We have a window on the side here that won't be visible for anything, just for a little ventilation. And the tub gets this vista and no windows to the neighbors. When these windows exist, and this window just looks down towards the beach, to the harbor. Again, opening all windows to the views. That was his purpose.
Where's the deck?
Pardon?
Where did you say have a deck?
Right here.
That's
Right,
it.
that's it.
Okay. Second story deck.
Front elevation, just where we're dressing up those two windows to the dining room, and a little bay window in there, 90-degree bay. These are the two windows in the bedroom. We're kind of make sure that they're centered to be sure that they're equal each side. A couple of ventilation windows in the closet. Some in the master bathroom. This is it. This is in the bedroom on the front side of this bedroom here. There's an existing one there now. We're just modifying it a little bit. This is in the toilet compartment upstairs, shower compartment. And there's on that neighbor on this side, there's no windows in their house that looks this way. There's a garage, and then there's a window that is nothing. And of course, this house on this side is 6 feet lower. This is the rear elevation where the views are. This is I put the two houses both on each side to give an idea of their relationship to the height of our scale. Again, opening up our views for the.
Is this the neighbor's garage here?
No, it's on the front side. This is a bit of a den. It's the back side of the garage. Yes,
Okay.
yes. And they added something on here several years ago. And this kind of just shows that the difference between the existing house there now, it has a gravel rock roof, and how much we're adding on to getting it to where it makes it more.
So the red is existing.
The red is existing. It shows the. this has got a rock roof on it now, which is something that hasn't been done in
Yes.
50 years, you know. So,
No one wants to do that again.
no, right. In fact, it wasn't even built the way the plan showed it originally, so.
Okay. And what have, on the back page, what have we got there? Some
Well, it's
section.
just a section showing the pool area. It's partially in ground, and then it's kind of just sticking out a little bit. Comment might be about the exposure of the walls below it. Again, the trees that are down below, they're topped off at the level of the patio, so there's no, there will be no exposure to any of these walls from below. You can't see it. And if you can, you're on Las Positas Road by over in Joker, which is quite a ways away.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up public comment. There is no one in the audience, so I'll close public comment, and we have some questions from staff or comments from staff.
I'm Suzanne Regal, case planner for this project. I just wanted to clarify what the requested modifications are. I know that Mr. Swan did discuss the front setback modification for the second story portion of the bathroom approaches into that front setback, which is 30 feet from the street. The other item is in the interior setback where the pool is. You'll see a staircase and some kind of detail on the edge of the pool. That is within the required interior setback, the 10-foot interior setback, and would require a modification also. So staff would request that you have specific comments on the supportability, the appropriateness of those improvements within the setback, and consistency with the guidelines.
Okay. Okay, well, let's open up
Can I show you one more thing?
Yes.
This picture here shows the wall that is on the neighbor's property to the east.
that wall right there.
And just wanted to point out that the wall goes beyond it, and so that our privacy to the neighbor, the pool is well within that confines of the wall. So it's kind of like a shield to the neighbors that this will not be seen from the neighbor.
So this little piece is going to be right here.
Yes, right. And just stepping down, and this is where the pool cover will be rolled up on this first step down. So, and then I just put the pool equipment around the backside so it's out of the way. And again, shielded from the neighbor's patio down below here.
Now, do you have a picture looking from this direction at all? Or
That's this picture here. Oh, yes.
The opposite neighbor.
Yep. Another one. Oh, that one.
Okay, and
There's the wall. It's right there now.
there's a wall on that side as well.
That's their wall. That is where we back up to. That's this wall here.
And this is your chain link
No.
fence.
Yes.
Right here?
No,
Or where is it?
it's over here somewhere.
Oh, well then, that's still showing me, but I was asking for this view.
Oh, that is this one. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no windows at all in there.
Okay, questions from the board? Yes, Jim?
Madam Chair, would you go over the photos again from the street? The adjacent houses have second floors over the garage, and that's as far as they've gone, right?
That's that one. This is 1158, which is to the east. Sorry. And this was existing on the existing house, and they added this other portion and on the back side.
And this is the subject property here.
Right.
And then
On the other side,
on the other side.
that is that's this house here.
And it would have been this, it's this one as well, right?
No, that's this one.
Oh, this one. So they also have
See, there's a second story that's like a window that is a copper set window up above.
Okay.
But they're both 2 stories.
questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
A couple of questions. From the zoning standpoint, the two existing bedrooms are now in the required setback line.
Correct.
So somehow we got a new zoning that got imposed on top of it. And so if maybe this because it's in pink. So the little piece you have to get a modification for, in addition to the bedrooms, is right here.
I don't think I need it for the bedrooms, Suzanne?
Is it just the little pice for the bathroom?
Proposed new construction
New
is what needs
construction.
the modification.
Okay, so it's just this little sliver right here?
Correct.
Okay, and then a question, is there any reason why you couldn't do the pool equipment and the staircase on this side? And not have to get the modification? Is there something over here that prohibits you from doing that? Or?
Yes, no, other than this is where the living room is, the entrance to it, that's like all your view is that direction. This is out of the way.
And then
we're okay with that. I mean, it's like,
and then could you? I'm having. I guess I'm not seeing, but maybe it's all there. I think it's all there, but I'm not sure I understand it. The fireplace element that comes out of. I think.
Yes.
That's the fireplace.
Yes. Yes. It's an offset.
So do you have a section through there or something that shows us how that works?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's offset. The only reason I ask that is in looking at the elevations. This elevation just looked a little odd. That the fireplace is coming down, but it doesn't come to the ground. So that's what I was kind of trying to figure out what was going on. So, and looking at it this way, so it doesn't. It kind of sticks out, but it doesn't come to the ground. Okay.
I think maybe you're right that it is offset. I think that.
Okay.
I do have it beyond that point.
Right.
Yeah, it's landing on the balcony.
It's landing on the balcony, but it doesn't come all the way.
There's a corner of that cantilever of that one area of the deck area, or this area room right here. It's cantilevered out a little bit.
And then the chimney cap is a copper or something, right?
Just iron.
Okay.
Like mine. I'll take a picture of it.
Okay, and then the windows are all going to be replaced, or they're?
Yes, it'll be wood.
So the whole house you're going to replace
wood casement,
all of the
clad
wood casement.
The exterior stucco will be well smooth on top of brown coat. We'll put a texture in the smooth surface, bullnose corners, level returns on the eaves.
And do you have any sense yet of what the color of the house might be? The main
I
body
think
color?
more earth tones, adobe maybe, and dark brown trim with charcoal landmark type of roofing.
And those two windows in the walk-in closets and casements?
Yes.
Okay.
High up, so there's a little bit of privacy.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, the fireplace again.
Yeah.
That's a corner fireplace? Which way is it facing? Is it open on both sides?
No, just open to the main.
Kind of a odd window.
It's kind of a What we really we'd like to do, we'd like to find something that would not be totally enclosed, because he likes to carve a modern interior. So we want to have maybe, if we could shape the interior of the chimney so that this would go like level. You've seen that picture 100 times where it's just above the firebox, and then there's open space, and all you have is a flue going through it. Mm-hmm. The only little problem we have is we have this offset happening right at that point. So whether that offset can be sculptured into that corner and leave it open on both sides so that it would be just like a boxed area.
That, the support for the chimney that's sticking out.
Yeah.
I would think you could provide some sort of angle support underneath that goes back to the wall.
Except that it's on top of the deck there, so.
Looks odd sticking out there. How much deck do you have left there with the chimney?
About a foot.
Just eliminate it. That's not much use.
Well, I could take, I can take the back farther. I can have it not sticking out so far. I was trying to just to butt my eave into it, that's all.
Okay, it'd look better if you just stop the deck and return it, and then provide some sort of a
Okay.
support
Yeah,
underneath.
sure. Okay, I'll look at that.
It's unusable, though, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, be
that's a
fine,
good
yeah.
point. It's not really visible, that little spot.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comment? How about comments at this point? Nobody's got a comment.
Madam Chair, I went out and looked at this neighborhood, walked the street, and then looked at it from Las Positas, because these, he had a photograph here
Yes,
somewhere. wasn't
of
it?
the crest line. There.
It's on the backside of one of these.
Oh, here. Yeah.
Yeah, here it is. And so one of my concerns driving over to the site is the dominance of all of these houses up here in this little piece of the Crestline Drive. And I think the reason I was asking about the color of the house is in my view, the house next door that's kind of the yellow color
Yes.
really stands out. It just kind of, I think, due to the nature of the color, kind of forces your eye there, and it makes the houses lining up there look really big. But on the other hand, if you go down that street, the original houses were big. The house he was referring to next door, I forgot where that picture is. I think the one you were questioning. This one over here, yeah, and the back. That's the backside. I think that picture right here there's several of these models that are on that street, and they have a really steep roof pitch in which they then put second floors. So there's several of these on the street, and then there's several of these on the street where they, which is similar to the house in question, where they have the second floor over the garage, the two bedrooms, and so there's several of those that line the street. And so I guess I'm not quite comfortable yet that we want to repeat what this house did, which was basically just fill up the second floor. And I know that the floor area ratio is only 65%, but I think this is one of these cases where it's a little misleading because most of the lot's not usable. In other words, it drops off right at the edge of that patio, and it's just sheer drops down to the...
Saw that, yeah.
So yeah, from a mathematical standpoint, the FAR looks really good. But from a reality standpoint, we're making big houses up here. So I guess I'm not convinced yet. I mean, I understand why they're trying to do it and why they want to put it up on, add the second floor, and I'm not opposed to having a second floor. I'm just sensing it's too big. Regardless of the FAR, because I think that's misleading because of the nature of the lot. So I'm not comfortable with the size of it. I think the style is fine. I think the materials that are being talked about, even the colors, the roof material, etc., is probably perfectly fine. I'm just not comfortable with these, that old size, scale, and bulk thing. And with regards to the zoning issue, I think that shrinking the footprint could help this little modification piece. May not even have to have it. And then in talking to this issue here, I don't have a big problem with that little staircase in the setback line from an aesthetic standpoint. Don't see anything there that a neighbor could object to, or even a view from down the hill would object. So I think in general, the architecture is highly compatible with the neighborhood. I think the general material, as I say, is okay. I guess I'm just not. The size bothers me.
Okay, thank you. Good point. What size is this, what size is this master bedroom here?
13?
18, I'm seeing an 18-foot.
Yeah.
18 by 17.
15.
15? 15.
Is it 13 or 15?
That's-
That's the room
Well, the
itself.
17.
The room itself. That's the whole upper floor.
Okay, it's interesting because, no, it's really 17, because here's the 17 mark. It's actually more than that.
This is, are we talking about the
Oh, I
bedroom?
see, right here.
There's a bedroom.
Okay, right, 15, you're
Yeah.
correct.
So bedroom is
So 15 by 18. Okay. A study, a big study.
I guess I'm thinking that the bedroom dimension could be taken down a little bit. I think the closet dimension is probably where it needs to be. We'll make that work without being able to walk here into the closet. I think this could move back, that can move in a little bit. I think the study could suck down a little bit. I think this deck doesn't necessarily have to align with the edge of the roof. That can pull back. I just think the little. I just want to take the thing and suck it in a little bit.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in here?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Bernie.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I had the same thing, so I'm not going to repeat what Fred said, but that was the first thing that came to my mind, size, bulk, scale, in a neighborhood where there are already pretty large homes, but it's true that the way this lot is configured, it's mostly going down the slope, so it's not really fair to calculate it as if it were a regular flat lot. And the size of the addition is about 25% of what's already there is going to be added on, even more, I figured out. And something like that, it's just too much, I think. I just don't think it meets our guidelines.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in? Lisa?
I appreciate that you sunk the house down 8 inches to accommodate a lower plate height. And
I don't think that really happened. No, he took it down so that he could have more volume.
Oh,
But it's there now, so that's why.
Yeah.
my apologies. I agree with the other comments. I think you're going in a good direction, and overall, the aesthetics are good. But I do have an issue with the size as well. But
It's, yeah. What's your plate height?
For the second floor?
The second floor?
8 feet?
8 feet. Okay, yeah, and he's got an overall 23 foot, which, you know, is pretty normal, not excessive.
412 pitch.
Jim, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think that a few square feet could be removed.
A few?
Shaved off more than a few. You want to
I
be more
think
specific?
the suggestions that Fred had were very good. So
He makes
I think it can be done.
I think he makes a good point about the lot too. The really usable part of the lot is pretty small, comparatively speaking. So the FAR is deceiving in these homes along the crest line there. Do you have any comments, Brian?
Yeah, I think the addition's well done, but perhaps, a little reduction of square footage would help.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful addition, really. You've done a great job. You're a very talented man. And who wants to look at a motion here to...
I've already made one.
You've made one, all right.
Madam
Someone
Chair,
else.
shall we talk about the staircase? Any comments on that?
The staircase.
Well, you mean
yeah.
Steps?
Okay, well,
Oh, they're just steps?
they're just
It's just
Because I
steps.
thought she said
ground plane
staircase.
steps.
if you look,
Oh,
There's 2 steps down and then it's flat
Look
for...
right here, Bernie,
it's
there's
got a handrail on it.
oh, they're just
little steps.
That's at the bottom.
down to the pool equipment.
Okay, no, I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah. It's in that's what he needs a mod for, because it's in the setback, so that's something we need to talk about, and address.
It's
If
for a
that's a
pool cover,
bother, then we need to make that
How
comment,
close
because
is
this
it
is
to
comments
the
only, so.
neighbors?
Yeah, it's in there. I mean, there's a wall between the neighbor, and it's right behind the wall.
If you look at the site plan, it's not just the stairs that are kind of following the topography, it's the area that is identified for the pool cover.
Oh, right.
I guess that's what
Right.
Mr.
That
Swan
whole-
was letting me know. So that is what needs the modification for the encroachment. It's over 10 inches tall.
May I ask a question? If we squeeze this back and don't need the mod at the front, and so then we only need a mod at the side?
Correct.
Okay. What about the resurfacing the existing house? Nothing? Okay, so
Well,
so if I push that back, I don't need any mod.
That's right. So, and I was just going to ask you this
But the
question.
steps are okay?
Well, not these. These are in the setback. But what if this whole...
The steps requiring the mod or the pool cover requiring the mod?
It's the whole
What's
piece.
pushing it?
I believe that Mr. Swan has explained it to me, the steps are on grade. We do not have a detail to actually show where natural grade is and how the steps are being built. Are they being carved into the existing slope, or are they sitting 10 inches above the existing grade?
Some will be above.
So if they're more than 10 inches, the steps will need a modification
Okay, got it.
above the
Okay.
existing grade.
But the pool cover
Automatically requires it.
Yeah. So what if this whole thing shifted over here?
a little bit.
It doesn't work?
It gets too much into our living areas, and
I
that's
see.
our biggest problem. He wants to be bigger, but
I want to have a patio to sit around.
But if he took it over at least just for the pool
Just
cover.
like this much.
But this part here becomes part of the mod.
So he
Because it's above
needs a mod
grade.
anyway because
Oh,
they're
because
above
it's 10 inches. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're
Okay,
jumping at.
so, well, I don't have personally a problem with this. It's not a big deal. I don't think, the neighbor's back here, and there's a wall in between them. So I personally don't see that as a big issue. I could support that mod.
Have we talked to the neighbors?
Oh, yeah.
So they're-
Everybody. No, there's no problem.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion.
Okay?
Let's see, we're only allowed to do comments, I think, at this point.
Yep.
So for comments only, to come back, continue indefinitely, I guess, to the board, full board, with the following comments. That the board has no major issues with the proposed step location for access to the pool equipment, or the location of the pool cover in terms of aesthetics or exposure to the immediate neighbor. That the board would request the applicant to restudy the square footage and size of the second floor, particularly, and consider reducing the dimension in the north-south direction of the master bedroom, reducing the square footage of the study, and locating the northerly balcony off of the master bedroom further to the south. That the board west. And this little west corner by the fireplace.
East, that's east corner.
Excuse me, there's a little notch by the fireplace that be restudied, where the fireplace chimney and the balcony come together. That the board is generally in favor of the architectural style, that it should prove to be compatible with the neighborhood. The board would encourage the color palette when it's brought back to be in tones of beige or tan colors. So it would be less prominent from the ridge line as it's looked at from the city. And let's see, I think from a landscaping standpoint, there isn't much, right? They're keeping the jacarandas.
We have to do a tier 2.
And they have to do a tier 2.
Yeah.
I think that's the motion.
Okay.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, Bernie will second.
And I just want to talk to my board members about the lighting plan, because I know at night when you drive up Las Casitas and you do see those big houses in there, we want to make sure that the lights are going the downward and they're not all bright and lighting up the whole...
In the overhang of the flush down.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just add to the motion when you return, provide us with information about where exterior lighting.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
Yep.
That's acceptable to the, you second it?
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, good. Then we'll
Thank
see
you.
you the next time.
After I see you Suzanne.
Okay.
I guess we'll keep this one.
You keeping that one?
See, they were both in my camera.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, the full board.
Yes, to full board, continuous. Okay. And that seems to be it for this evening, so I will close the May 6th, 2013 Single Family Design Board.